I am finding out about something called JABA, and it says just Auburn being Auburn, and it is just a crap show, to say the least. You can tell that whoever wants Bryan Harsin gone, whether it's true or not, is finding everything they can to get rid of this guy. What is up, everybody? It's Jake with Master Football, back at it again. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you've never been here before, this is Jake with Master Football, pro football, college football, video game football, anything related to American football we discuss right now. Please subscribe. Please hit the red subscribe button. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. It drives engagement, really helps out the channel. I really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, right now I want to get into the second biggest story associated with the Auburn University, and that's their #1 rated basketball team. So here we are. Look, man, the Arkansas Razorbacks, they go and they lose in overtime. The #1 rated Auburn Tigers were coming into the game 22-1, 10-0 in conference, lose the game, weren't able to pull it out, outscored by 4 in overtime, so they lose that game. Keep in mind, I said that was the second biggest news story associated with the Auburn University. So now we're going to get to the first one, and I'm not going to lie, guys, this is a crazy one, so we got a lot to unpack here. This report comes from Monday. Auburn acknowledges it has expanded inquiries into football head coach Bryan Harsin's first year with the program. And Pete Thamel, again, like on Monday, like I said, it says right here, in a statement that doesn't mention Harsin by name, the university said it is collecting information from a variety of perspectives, including our student athletes. It says right here, this extends the awkward limbo of Harsin's future at Auburn 3 days after the outgoing school president, Jay Goog, acknowledged that the school was preparing to make appropriate decision on Harsin's future. Since then, both sides in this most unusual face-off appear to be digging in. Auburn inquiries have included questions as to why 20 players and 5 coaches have left the program after Harsin went 6-7 in his first season. Keep in mind that 6-7, they got off to a 6-2 start, lost their final 5 games, including their bowl game. It says right here, Harsin has characterizes any attack as a character as BS. His acknowledgement says that he plans to return to his job is a window into where he stands. Harsin is out of the country on a previously scheduled vacation and is slated to return Wednesday. SEC media coach are due in Birmingham, Alabama on Thursday, so this will be his first appearance. So it says right here, among the 5 coaches who've left Harsin's staff are veteran offensive coordinator Mike Bobo, who was fired, defensive coordinator Derek Mason, who left for Oklahoma State, left for $400,000 less per year Oklahoma State, so had a financial incentive to stay, decided to leave. New offensive coordinator Austin Davis resigning for personal reasons nearly 6 weeks after being hired in December to replace Bobo, comes over from the Seahawks. Mason goes to Oklahoma State despite taking $400,000 pay cut, and Harsin, it says right here, he went 69-19 over 7 seasons at Boise State before taking the Auburn job in December 2020. The Tigers started 6-2 before losing 5 games to end the season. So I have a really indirect connection to Bryan Harsin. He probably doesn't remember me. He probably like, oh yeah, I remember you. But anyways, Boise State, I tried out for the team at quarterback. Oh gosh, when was that? That was 2010, the spring of 2010, something like that. I didn't make it. But I met him in person. He's like, oh, yeah, Jake, you're out there from that mountain home. And I was like, yeah. So met him in person, seemed like a nice guy, was a good coach. And then he was the offensive coordinator, then left, went to Arkansas State, went to Texas as offensive coordinator, came back to Boise State. Everybody was elated about him. So comes back to Boise State. Chris Peterson, known as Coach Pete, he decided to leave to go to Washington. So they brought Bryan Harsin back. He had been around a couple places. We're like, we need a Boise guy. Harsin is a Boise guy, grew up, went to Capitol High School, did all those sorts of things. So when he was here, you noticed several things about his teams. He recruits really, really well. We're actually going to get into that in a second here. He recruits really, really well. His teams can sometimes underperform. Boise State's a pretty easy place to win. Just because of the division that it's in and how things are set up and the fact that there's a lot of program support to be well. So also, whatever the head coach wants, the head coach gets. So there's lots of aspects about that connect to me personally. I don't know Bryan Harsin personally. There are some things in here that are accusations that are damning against his reputation, but we're going to get into how legitimate some of those are and some of those aren't. I want to get into the next article from the previous Friday here that kind of continues on with what's going on at Auburn right now, because I am finding out about something called JABA, and it says just Auburn being Auburn, and it is just a crap show, to say the least. So right here, this is from last Friday. Auburn players, Auburn Tiger football coach Bryan Harsin not planning on going anywhere amid program's volatility. So it says right here, as university leaders scrutinize the struggles of Auburn football coach Bryan Harsin amid an exodus of players, like he said, 25 coaches, he says he's committed to the school for long term. Right now, again, he's currently out on vacation, and we continue on here because he gets into a couple things here. So it says right here that Lee Hunter, who transferred from Auburn to UCF, posted on Instagram on Friday that Coach Harsin has a true mindset for a winner, but has a terrible mindset as a person. He also posted, the reason I chose to leave Auburn was because we are treated like we wasn't good enough and like dogs. Harsin bristled at the suggestion that he mistreated players or coaches and pointed out that there were different reasons for coaches or players leaving the program. He listed everything from a coach landing another job or leaving for personal reasons to a coach simply not living up to expectations to a player leaving because he was a distraction to the team or wooed by another school. Any attack on my character is BS. None of that is who I am. Said one source to the ESPN, there are some kids in the locker room who do like him. If they fire him, what are we going to do? It would set Auburn back 2 or 3 years. Auburn linebackers Chandler Wooten, a team captain who is headed to the NFL, and Derek Hall, who led the team in sacks and tackles, took to Twitter on Friday to defend Harsin. We didn't need a best friend. We needed a coach. That's what we had, Wooten posted. Countered, Safety Smoke Monday, an NFL draft prospect who was going pro, on Instagram Live says, since Harsin got hired, he never had one conversation with my mom or dad. You probably don't even know their name. As a coach, how can you explain that? So it says right here, this is all over the place, but these are the reports right now. I want to make sure I get into something really quickly to just verify what I think happened there. So Lee Hunter, the defensive lineman, went to UCF. That's kind of interesting. So here we are on Lee Hunter's 247 profile. It says down here, so he committed, and if you look at this, it says right here, he signed December 16th, 2020. So usually what happens in a recruiting situation is that you are recruited up until a certain point. It's not like they offered him the 16th and they accepted on the 16th. They were probably recruiting him for some time up until that point, and then he decided to sign on the 16th. Well, who was recruiting him? Well, if you look at this, on December 13th, so 3 days before that, Gus Malzahn, the former head coach at Auburn, was fired. So what do I think happened? I think that Gus Malzahn was recruiting Lee Hunter the entire time. He gets fired. Lee Hunter still decides to go to Auburn. He goes to Auburn, gives it 1 year, and says, this sucks. I'm going to UCF, where guess who they just hired? Gus Malzahn. So that's just some of the nuts stuff that's happening right now. I mean, there's, like I said, 20 players have left from the transfer portal. We're actually going to go through a big list of that right now because there's a lot of them. But there's a ton to get over here. But I have recently learned about something that I did not know about. That is called JABA, just Auburn being Auburn. I actually want to get back into the article to articulate what is kind of going on behind the scenes and where I think there is a potential smearing that could be fair or unfair. It's dirty games, but it's SEC football, and it just matters more down there to them. So in addition to this really quick, and I want to make sure that I can articulate this point right here. So it says that Auburn has been among the SEC's least patient football programs, as evidenced by the firing of former Dean Chiswick in 2012, just 2 seasons after winning the national title. The school owed nearly $21.5 million to former head coach Gus Malzahn after firing him last year when Auburn went 6-4 in the regular season. So you saw here, he went 6-4, or like this is Bryan Harsin's first season as a head coach. So he starts off winning against Akron, win against Alabama State, lost at Penn State, tough place to play. Played Georgia State, eventually won that game, but kind of irked it out. Beat LSU, lost to Auburn. Everybody lost to Auburn except for Alabama. Beat Arkansas at Arkansas, beat Ole Miss at home, and then they lost 4 straight at Texas A&M, Mississippi State at home, at South Carolina, Alabama at home, and they had that one in the bag. If they had just been able to just execute a couple of plays, they would have won that game, prevented Alabama from going to the national championship. And then they lose to Houston in their bowl game. So 6-2, and then went 0-5 down the stretch to end at 6-7. And if you check here, this is the transfer portal for 2022 for Auburn, and you literally just, on this side, it's where you're staying at, and this side's where you're leaving to. So you see the fact that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Somebody from Oregon came over, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's a lot of dudes that are leaving right now. Especially here, a big one, Bo Nix was the big prize recruit, starting quarterback for a while, decided to leave to go to Oregon. So there's lots of big players here that were on the team, decided to leave. You see Zach Calzada came over from Texas A&M to Auburn. He looks like he has 3 years of eligibility to play, so there's something you can work with there. Now, the thing about this is, I told you before that Bryan Harsin does a good job of recruiting. So here's the thing about this. When you look at Auburn's school, this is in the country right now, 247 recruiting reports. They are the number 18 class in the class of 2022 who that just signed a couple weeks ago. So he's doing a good job. Now, where that's going to be held against him is the fact that you remember what we said. Auburn is one of the least patient jobs out there. And a big aspect behind that is the fact that there are lots of boosters out there and this is a report that I'm getting, there's lots of boosters out there that are kind of too many cooks in the kitchen kind of a situation. And I think that they think they're more important than they are, and they really wanted to hire a certain person that we'll get into in a second. But you look at here, so Auburn's 18 in the country. That's really, really good. But it's not really good when you look at Tennessee, Missouri, Kentucky, LSU. We got, what is it? Oh, here, Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M. All SEC schools. I mean, 1, 2, we continue down here. We have 3. There's 3 SEC West schools that have those top classes. Missouri and Kentucky are in the East. Tennessee is 2. So they're the 4th best class in the SEC West. That is something where, and again, Auburn, they won that national championship. I think they got their head a little bit big. And I think a lot of those boosters are like, we deserve to be better than this. Well, I mean, they're trying to kind of create something because the rumor was that they actually wanted this guy as their head coach. So you see here, Kevin Steele. Now, Kevin Steele, if you come down here and check it out, we scroll down here onto his list. Kevin Steele, at 2020, it was when remember, they were 6-4. They fired Gus Malzahn. So those final games, they had Auburn interim head coach / defensive coordinator. He's an SEC guy. You come down here and check out where he's from. He's from Dillon, South Carolina. He's a Southern dude, Southern team. He was on the team. He played in, what was that? Tennessee, and then what else we got here? Tennessee, and Baylor's not a Southern. I mean, Florida State is an ACC school, but it's right in the panhandle. Alabama, and there's Clemson, and there's LSU, and there's Auburn. He was an SEC Southern type of guy, whereas Harsin is a West Coast guy, Northwest guy, came in kind of one of those things where it's the administration wants somebody, and then the boosters want somebody else. Kind of a too many cooks in the kitchen kind of a situation. This is also just downright shameful. This shows you that how much the SEC is... they'll just be willing to do and say anything. And again, I don't know if these are true or not. But there's a girl who is, we're just going to say not unattractive, who's a former Boise State cheerleader, then assistant for Bryan Harsin, then came from Boise State to Auburn to remain to be that assistant. And apparently they're saying that he was having an inappropriate relation with her. Dude, you can tell that whoever wants Bryan Harsin gone, whether it's true or not, is finding everything they can to get rid of this guy. And ironically, Barrett, Salih, and unfortunately, you see right here, by hiring Boise State's Bryan Harsin, Auburn proves it's finally ready to go in a new direction. Here's the problem. Here's the big issue, is that the administration was ready to go in a new direction, whereas it seems like the boosters aren't. So what's happening right now, 6-7, they're upset. It's a new coach. There's transition. There's players leaving. There's players going. There's players saying this. There's transition with the head coaches or with the assistant coaches. There's stuff happening all over the place. So what I think is going on right now is I think that the cooks, meaning the boosters who write the checks, are like, we want this to happen. Whereas the administration's like, hey, let's bring in a new guy. Let's bring in a fresh face, a new voice, Northwest guy down here to the South, see if it can work out. And there's definitely what the experts would call some growing pains. So, dude, I don't even know what to say here. I am interested. If anybody's an Auburn fan, or at least even better, if somebody's not an Auburn fan, but they're an Auburn rival, Alabama fan, or Georgia fan, something like that, can you please explain to me what you think or what an example of JABA is, just Auburn being Auburn? Because apparently there are some, how do I say this? There are some boosters down there that think they're more important than they are. They're trying to build a case to fire a coach after one season. Remember, at one point they were 6-2, went to a bowl game, lost the bowl game. They had Alabama on the ropes and just couldn't quite hold it off. Now, transition here and there. The administration is trying to go in one direction. The boosters are trying to go in another, and they're pulling out all the stops. They're pulling up pictures of what this player said about this guy, what this player said about that guy, what this assistant coach said, why this assistant coach left, why he stayed, what's going on there. Oh, I also heard a report that he doesn't know how to talk to black players. I'm letting you know right now, there are plenty of black dudes on the Boise State football team. He knows how to talk to black dudes. There's also reports about, what's his assistant doing here? She's awfully cute for you to be really, really close to your assistant. There's every single thing in the book being thrown at this guy right now. I did not know that's kind of how it happens, where these reports, again, where there's smoke, there's fire, but also at the same time, some of the smoke might be fanned by somebody who has ulterior motives. So who knows where these leaks are coming from? But I do know that right now it is safe to say it's a mess. And I know Bryan Harsin a little bit. I hope that it all works out. You know, he's a former Boise State head coach, left us. We got Andy Avalos. I actually really like Andy Avalos, and I want us to keep him. But, you know, good luck to him with what's going on here, because this is a mess. All right, guys, get in the comments. Let me know what you think. I will see you guys on Friday. I'm out.